So we are in the center of Athens. I'm Mirko and I'm traveling in Greece. And this is my last destination in this trip. And here, just underneath the Acropolis, which I will show you in a short while, there's this wall, which is something of an incredible sight. The size of the blocks is absolutely huge. I mean, look at Deborah. There's one here which is, I mean, I cannot even describe how big this is. So this place is called Pnyx. It was supposed to be behind here some kind of assembly place of ancient Athens. But it's not supposed to be that old, so some centuries before Christ. It's just that now I give you the camera to Deborah just to show you the size of these blocks. I'm 2 meters. This is 2 meters 40. And this is the width. This is about 2 meters, my arms. And I mean, this one is probably the biggest, but I mean, doesn't mean that this one is small. And these up here are not small either. Let's move further. Another one, huge one. I mean, each block is bigger than the other. And the question really is it possible that the same people who built the nice and beautiful Acropolis of Athens made this wall? And look here, there's a few polygonal corners. Even if the general shape is square, there are other corners like this one. And the precision of these corners, if you consider the size of this block, look at this one. Look at this one, my darling. Okay, just the detail here of this joint here. And there's another joint over there. And here, I mean, to give you, you cannot even get close. I mean, it's so big you cannot get words to speak about it. I mean, I think the best thing I could do was to show myself, but now I show Deborah. Unfortunately, again, we are against the sun. But I mean, again, a very huge one. Try to shelter the sun a little bit. Okay, like this. I mean, the wall is some 4 meters high, but it's just made by 2 blocks. One bottom about 2 meters and the other on top about another 2 meters. Okay, always trying to shelter the sun. Unfortunately, we cannot get too far away to give you a general idea, and the wall goes on for a couple of 100 meters, I guess, because we have already walked about 50 or 60 meters, and maybe it's going to get deeper. Look at Deborah. I mean, she is nothing compared to the size of these blocks. Nobody's here again. I mean, we are in the center of Athens. There's thousands of tourists around here, and nobody comes to see this feature or these feet. So the wall pretty much ends here. You can see the blocks are somehow polygonal. And yeah, I mean, we just go to the main part again because I want to make clear how big these blocks are. And as Deborah was saying, nobody's here. We are in the park, just less than a kilometer from the Acropolis, the famous Acropolis of Athens. We are alone and we don't have to pay anything because this is not part of the archaeological site of the Acropolis, so it's for free. It's inside the park. There's a lot of stuff inside this park, interesting stuff, and I believe this is probably the most interesting. And anyway, I mean, it's just, I mean, this block here on top is certainly 4 meters by 2 by I don't know how thick. And it's like a bigger scale of everything we've seen so far. To me, this is the remains of something much older. And then the Greek people decided to build the Acropolis around this place, because places remain sacred over the millennia. And you see they were even decorated with some kind of squares around. You see in these blocks you can see it a little bit. Here it's the only place we got 3 rows of blocks, so it's, I guess, about 6 meters tall. Impressive. So under this block we can get a feeling of, an idea of how thick they are, and I guess it's well over a meter, maybe even 2. Difficult to say, but anyway, there's one missing here, so that gives us a possibility. So this single block, considering a width of 3 meters by 2.7 meters height and 1.5 meters thickness, which is probably less than the reality, this single block should weigh around 30 tons. And it's just one of many. And again, what we find here at the base of the ruins, a nice turtle. Again. I mean, I didn't show you all those that I've filmed so far, but I've seen in at least in 4 or 5 places. Okay, as you can see, there are some polygonal corners, there are some cornices, and, well, just get a feeling of the size of these stones by seeing me 2 meters tall under this wall. And this one protrudes at least a meter, if not more. And you see the wall just goes on. It's like a semicircle. The stones don't really get much smaller. Actually, they do get a little bit smaller, the highest one, but they seem to have been cut. And this is about where it ends. So we have here 2 between 20 and 30 tons blocks, and look at the joint between them. Beside having a cornice drawn on them or sculpted on them, this is the joint. I mean, it's amazing. Here you can see another one, a crooked joint. Or here there's another one, but I cannot get that high. Very, very precise joints. So one last shot of this cyclopean wall, and this time the term is really appropriate. About 100 meters long, in the shape of a crescent moon, supposed to be a retaining wall for the assembly of the democratic movements of Athens sometime back in a few centuries BC. So another observation here is that there's quite a few things carved from the bedrock. You can see a stairway there going up. There's more things here carved in the rock. And okay, one could say, well, that's where they took the stones from to build the wall. But yeah, well, I just make this observation. And the stairway, by the way, just goes straight to the wall and then ends there. So this is about where the wall ends. There's still one big block here, but I just want to film it from this angle so you can see the thickness, the average thickness of these blocks, which I would guess is about a meter, but it probably may be more in some places and less in others. It's a little bit slippery situation here. I can try to walk behind her, which is being more adventurous than I am. And I repeat, we are in the center of Athens. Here you can see. Yes, this one may be 80 centimeters, but there it's even fatter. So between 80 centimeters and a meter, and behind you can see the city of 3 million in the metropolitan area spreading out. The wall is right underneath here. There we can get a first glimpse of the Acropolis of Athens in the background, so you can see how close that actually is. And this is supposed to have been the place where the assembly met to discuss. And it's actually quite interesting, even if nothing compared to the wall in my opinion, but you see there's a podium carved out of the rock there, and on both sides there are vertical walls also carved out from the bedrock. So it's quite still particular. I mean, okay, from here we can get a full view of this part carved out of the bedrock, and the podium there in the middle, and then this carved out rock goes on. So there's the wall carved out of the rock. Down there below is the Pnyx wall, so the wall with the huge blocks of stone. And there we have the Acropolis. Actually a quite nice view from here. Unfortunately, we probably won't be able to go because nowadays you have to book online the day before, and they assign you a time slot, and you cannot be later than 15 minutes from that time slot, and we didn't know at which time we would get here in Athens, so we couldn't book it online. But this is not the purpose of this trip. This trip was to see something more ancient. So we're just above the carved wall I showed you a moment ago, and from here we have an incredible view of this whole city and the Acropolis. And there's more huge blocks here, but now there's nothing huge anymore after having seen the Pnyx wall. Here it was, of course, flat, and somebody worked it out to make it flat. So here right on top of the Pnyx hill there's a few more ruins here. Blocks are big, but of course nothing compared to what we saw at the retaining wall of Pnyx. And here is the upper carved wall. So we are still in the park near the Acropolis of Athens, and we're in a place called the Hill of the Nymphs. Basically there's not much here, but a lot of excavated or carved out shapes on the bedrock. You can see a square here, there's a circle there, and various stuff. So since it was not really, as far as I know, the Hellenistic Greek didn't really do a lot of carving. This is something we've seen more in central Italy, in the Etruscan area. Etruscans would do these kind of things. So I'm just wondering if this also is some kind of vestiges of some much more ancient people, which later gave rise to the Hellenistic time, which was basically set up here. You can see another angle of the Acropolis over there, and the whole hills around here, part of this quite big park in the center of Athens, and the harbor, which isn't far there. You can see the sea, some islands, and a huge area of Athens, which actually didn't expect it to be that large. Here too we can see some stuff carved out to the bedrock. So we are walking up a small hill where we should have a very good view of these amazing pillars. So to get to the monastery we first had to descend a little bit, and now we enter this corridor. And that's the place where James Bond movie back in the 80s with Roger Moore was filmed.